Our goal is to make us a one-stop shop for you. So you only send your vehicle to one place, everything's done. Imagine if you save just 15 minutes a day. That's another 15 minutes every day of every year that you can charge out.
Welcome back to another episode of a Kiwi Original. Today on the show, I'm joined by Carl Blackman from Camco Industries. And we're going to be talking about vehicle fit-outs for a couple of reasons. A lot of Kiwis are on the road as part of their job. So their office is actually their ute and their vehicle. These are the things you'll see, the big trucks around the place, like the Ford Rangers, Toyota Hiluxes, even the Mitsubishi Tritons or a classic Ford Transit van. What you don't get to see is what's on the inside of these vans. And there's a lot of fit out that Camco help businesses with to be productive or to get safe. And so today we're going to cover some of the ins and outs of that and Carl's role within the business. But first of all, welcome to the show, Carl.
Thanks, Ron. It's fantastic to be on the show and supporting Buy NZ Made.
Now,
it's been good to see the campaign over the last few weeks really take a quantum leap forward. There's so much more out there. We're so much more aware about buying NZ Made and supporting the local economy. It's been great.
It has been great. Isn't it great that the people like your organisation and my organisation who have just been ticking away in the background, working on this stuff day to day, it's now being seen and recognised by the broader population that what we make here might actually matter.
It definitely does, and that's part of the glue, I think, that keeps our team together. We all know that we support the local economy. From the management team side, it's a pleasure to be able to have so many on board and see the renewed commitment in our team being, they're absolutely stoked that the company's still cranking, they've still got a job when in so many other industries it's not the case. Just an example is we have a lot of fabricator welder types, and they tend to be the kind that get on with their job. They don't talk a lot. I had a 15-minute conversation with one the other day. He's been here for quite a number of years, and he was going into a lot of detail with his partner, what she's found in her job, and the cuts that company's had to make. And it hasn't been an easy 8 weeks that we've just come through for a company, but definitely we're absolutely stoked to be a New Zealand manufacturer and support the economy.
It does make a difference because, as you'll know, your colleagues are employed because New Zealand businesses choose to buy products from you that you produce and manufacture in New Zealand. And I think let's maybe start with the picture behind you, which is your virtual background for this Zoom call. What goes into a Ford ute like that? Like looking at the back of it, what's actually involved in putting something like that together for a customer?
Yeah, well, look, I'll give you a bit of a better view of it, I guess.
Good man.
We look at the whole thing from the front to the back. So whether it's the lights on the pretty bumper or it's the compressor right at the back or the tow bar that you can't see, we provide a turnkey solution. So it's a mixture of our own manufactured products that we buy and fit. But overall, our goal is to make us a one-stop shop for you. So you only send your vehicle to one place, everything's done, turns up, goes to the car dealer, gets the number plate screwed on, and then it's yours to take. From start to finish, there's a lot of areas we look into these days, and one critical aspect is the weight. Back before the WorkSafe laws changed in 2015, 2016 there, we saw a lot of vehicles running around the place with a hang of a lot of gear on them, If there was a spot for it, well, put more on. If there's still more space, well, let's put some more on. And when we run out, well, let's put a trailer on. We've had a lot of overweight vehicles in this country. what we've done is we've tried to work on a couple of different options to help that out. Number one is the fit out. So we've cut out a lot of weight out of the fit out through smarter design. The other side of it is GVM upgrades. So now you can fit a GVM upgrade to the vehicle.
What is a GVM upgrade? What does GVM stand for the uninitiated like myself who likes the look of this vehicle but really has no idea at all where I'd start with understanding what I'd need to fit something out like this?
Yeah, okay, let's start with GVM is gross vehicle mass.
So it's the weight.
Is the maximum the vehicle can weigh on the road. And then you've got every different vehicle has a different curb weight. So the difference between gross vehicle mass and curb weight is the payload that can be put on it. Now, we've got to remember that includes the driver and the passenger, or if it's a double cab ute, passengers, whether it be one or two passengers once in a blue moon. We've still got to think about that. We've still got to look at all the scenarios. So with the GVM upgrade, what we can do is fit a new suspension kit to the vehicle which is certified to increase the on-road weight.
Right, got it. So you're actually starting to change the platform of what's available to put into the vehicle, which then gives you more headroom on the fit out and also what can be carried in terms of overall weight.
Yeah, that's correct. So we're looking at it from two perspectives: how we can make the fit out smarter and lighter without compromising on strength, and then the increase with the GVM upgrade, which, by the way, is independently engineered. It's approved by the Australian federal government, which the new NZTA takes those rules and regulations over into the New Zealand environment as well. So as a company, we are accredited by the Australian federal government to sell and fit these kits.
That's great to hear because, you know, these vehicles, looking at that one behind you now, I mean, it's a beast. And that traveling at 100 kilometers an hour with a bunch of tools in it, if that had to brake hard, you know, what happens to all the tools if it's not in a fit out where everything's, where there's a place for everything and it's stored? You know, do those turn into projectiles at speed when the vehicle slows down?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And you know, a big part of our job these days is educating. So looking at what a customer's doing with the vehicle and making sure that we've got enough secure locations for their gear, making sure there's load restraint points, making sure there's drawer cabinets inside to house all their tools. Just another simple example is the door latches on the big going door that opens up. It's held by a two-stage latch. So, you know, you just if you hop in your car and you don't quite shut it right, it's caught on the first stage. You know, that really annoying thing. You have to go down the road and you have to open the door and give it a good slam.
That's the one.
So that's the going doors as well. That they work exactly the same principle. So, you know, in the unfortunate event of a rollover or something similar, it's all contained in there.
What's the type of customer that, like from my notes here, it says that you specialize around construction, councils, infrastructure companies, power companies. You must see a lot of different needs come through the workshop there. Talk us through like one of those industries. What's kind of stock standard for the fit out inside?
Well, let's go for power, because that what you see there is really what a power company would set up. So, you know, from the bull bar on the front through to the body on the back, ladder racks on the roof there. They haven't got any ladders on them in those, but in that picture, but they carry a lot of gear, and some of it's pretty heavy. You know, there's a lot of fuses, nuts and bolts, and a power cut you carry around for securing the cross arms up on the power poles that you see. And then they've got the harness gear. They've got to keep it all well protected. So, you know, to secure all that properly, you can't just leave the body open, if you like, and hoof it all in. Well, that'd be nice. It cuts down on the weight, but we see a range of different setups on the interior. But in the main, we're looking at some slide-out drawers and small part storage for the nuts and bolts and fuses.
And what's the feedback that you get when, you know, almost it's a before and after, if you have someone working within that a power utility or construction, and they've never been used to working on a deck that's organized like this? What's the kind of before and after comments that you get?
Yeah, I guess those are always the most rewarding ones. Some examples just recently have been just how much easier it is to access their gear. In a body like that, it's hard to see until you experience it, but everything's right at arm's reach. Nothing is tucked in behind something else, way in the back of the ute somewhere. It's all at arm's reach.
So you don't have to climb in and look for the circular saw or the jackhammer and then drag it out through the flat deck. There's
none of the old traditional slap the tailgate down and crawl in and find what you're looking for. It's all there at arm's reach. The other thing that we have innovated and come up with in the last 3 or 4 years is a single handle on the door there. So the experience is just like a car door handle. That's what we wanted to achieve. So traditionally you might have a T-latch or something like that. It might be a couple of latches on the door, but there's just one handle, so you can come up to it with an armload of tools, pull it open just like a car door, comes up on gas struts, so it all opens hands-free essentially once you've unlatched it, and then you're free to put your tools in there with both hands.
That's interesting, because then you're essentially, those gull wing doors become display cabinets, and you can see either where everything is, or at least there is drawers that can you label what goes on the drawer, color code, like what are the different options there?
Yeah, exactly. We see a lot of that. In that particular demo unit there, we've set it all up with Kaizen foam, so inside the drawer units, you roll the drawer unit out, and your screwdrivers and spanners are all laid out, perfect order, you know. And it's easy to see when something's missing as well. So we've got a bit of an analogy we use is, imagine if setting up your ute a little differently, imagine if you saved just 15 minutes a day. That's another 15 minutes every day of every year that you can charge out. The payback across a vehicle life of maybe 5 years is going to be, even if it's only 15 minutes, it's going to be phenomenal.
Well, I was looking on your Instagram recently as preparation for this call, and that number did come up. 15 minutes a day was like 62 hours a year. And I thought, well, you know, some of these tradies, their charge out rates, you know, north of $100, $125, $150. If it's up at those levels, it's, you know, you're at $8 or $9 grand within a year. What would a current fit out deal get to? Like, what's the payback period if someone was thinking, geez, I need to make every dollar count post COVID. I need to really work harder, but there's not enough hours in the day, and they see this as a smarter way of working. You know, what's the payback going to be like on something like this?
Yeah, so, you know, your typical fit out with a service body there is somewhere between 12 and 17 grand. So easily within a couple of years you've paid it off. When you go to a service body though, the other payoff is you can transfer it from vehicle to vehicle. So it'll
Right.
allow you to pay it off on the first vehicle, transfer it to the second vehicle with at minimal setup cost. You don't have to think what you're doing or anything like that. It's just flip it on to the next one and you're away again.
Do you find that if one trade or one organization fits out their fleet, that the competitors then start looking, going, well, maybe we need to do it, and then you get business from another player within the same field because they've upped the bar?
Yeah, 100%, definitely. And, the other one is councils. They don't necessarily compete, but they do all see what each other are doing across the country, and, you fit something out for one, and then you get the next, there's a bit of a domino effect there, and that's a good idea. Let's have a look at it ourselves. It works like that, definitely.
What do the council use the fit outs for?
Yeah, so councils typically they'd have dog control units, animal control units. So that's one area we do a lot of work with. And then the other area is around water reticulation or hydrology departments. So they'll have a body similar to what's in the picture there. And then the other area that we work a lot with is facilities maintenance. So we do a range of fit-outs in this area, whether it be something simple with a flat deck and a small toolbox for the gardens guys to throw a few shovels and a bit of soil on the back, through to more complex setups such as tipper units with a cage for litter collection. Or the other thing we do a lot of is setting up smaller vans for the guys that go around and clean up the toilets and that sort of thing. So in a nutshell, that's really what we usually work on with councils.
So it's really varying based on if you're a council chief exec and you've got a lot of investment in people, but they're all doing different things depending on which department they work in, what their daily job is, then by fitting out their virtual office, which is their vehicle, the way that suits their job, you're going to get more bang for your buck on behalf of ratepayers. So actually having a ute or a vehicle like that looks flash, although it may upset some ratepayers thinking, this looks way too much from where my rates are going, you're actually saving money because it's making them more productive, it's saving them time, and it's keeping them safe.
Yeah, so there's all of that side, and that's only looking at the upfront cost. Then they can transfer the whole fit out to the next vehicle. Vehicles need replacing every 3 to 5 years. There's that initial outlay, but the payback is the ability to transfer it from vehicle to vehicle.
Yeah, that's great. What's the most unusual fit out you've ever seen?
There's been a few. I suppose if anyone's keen to go away and have a look at a few, the Yanks seem to come up with many and various bits and bobs, but probably from what we've manufactured in the past, we made a unit to transport photo booths. You can hire those photo booths and you put $2 in it and you can take a photo of you and all your mates at a party.
I've seen those. They roll those out at weddings quite often too.
Yeah, and I think they print the photo out for you right there and then, or maybe they email it to you.
Yeah, it's like a Polaroid Polaroid feature, isn't it?
Yeah, we set up a fit out that would transfer 4 of those in the back of a van, so they slid out and cantilevered down on a winch down to the ground so that you could load it all with one person. And
wow,
it was definitely put your imaginations to the test around here. But we got there in the end.
Sorry to interrupt. This won't take long. Subscribe to the show and you'll never miss another one of these amazing episodes. Right, back to the show. What got you started at Camco, Carl? So what's your story into the business?
Well, my story is pretty straightforward. I'm the son of the owner, so this is where I am. But the reason Camco started was my dad worked in engineering for most of his life, but he did a stint in the glass industry as a glazier. So he had a glazier's van, like you see, the glass rack on the side and a bunch of tools thrown in the back. And when he'd finished with that, he was wondering what to do next, and thought of this idea that had been clambering in the back of the van all his 5 or 6 years, and why? So he came up with this drawer design using his engineering background, obviously, and that's how we started, with the big slide-out drawers in the back of a well-side ute. And still today, it's a good chunk of our business. It probably looks a bit different to what it did back in the day in the shed at home, but it's the basic design is still the same. It's evolved. It's faster to build. It's all of those things that come with time are there, but the basic drawer unit still looks the same. And then going back 2013, we got into the service body market. So I was around at the time as a lot of imported options or locally made options that weren't productionised. So they'd be very, very bespoke, or they just weren't built at a level that was going to last, and with the objective in mind to build them on a production line in bulk.
That's smart.
So here we are, 2020, 7 years later, and I think the split in our business is about 60% service bodies and 40% drawers.
What's it like working with your dad? Are you bossing him around saying you should be doing this, you're not moving fast enough on that? Or is he bossing you around going, oi, I need you to do this and that? Or is it a bit of both?
Yeah, no, I think it works both ways. It's a two-way street, definitely. Look, his forte is design. My forte is certainly not design. I'd prefer to be, in the field, seeing customers, building relationships, whereas he'd rather be talking to a CAD design system. So if that gives you an idea of our personality differences.
It does indeed. It sounds like they're quite complementary, because, without the customer service, you're not going to have much to design, and without the design, you've got nothing to sell. Yeah,
exactly. And, this business is much more than a family now. It's we've got a management team of 6, and I'm the only one of the family in it. So, we're at a point now where we're past the family business stage, if you like, but we still hold those core values, and it works well.
How many people are you're based in Cambridge, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
How many work for Camco out of Cambridge?
We've got 36 staff on board as at today.
And looking ahead, what do you need from councils or from those infrastructural power companies? What would be a really good order that's going to keep you going for the next 12 months?
Yeah, look, I think New Zealand's not a place where you go out there and you get an order for 100 vehicles all in one hit. It's the 2s and the 5s and the 10s that make it up. And as a business, we've got to provide value. We can't expect people to just buy off us just because we're made in New Zealand. We can't be the gold-plated, most expensive on the market And I think, we've got the balance pretty good there. We sell a good quality product, we've got a good turnaround time, and we've got a fair price. I think what we're seeing with the government's announcements around infrastructure spend, that type of thing, I think power companies, well, firstly, infrastructure companies are going to see the real benefit out of that. There's always a flow-on effect to power companies with the power supply and, where there's moving pylons, and there's contracts that go around it that have a flow-on effect to a lot of other industries, and we see a direct result of that. So I think what the government's doing is great, and we're out there to support the companies that are in these industries trying to push it forward. And I know a lot of other companies in similar industries to us are going to see a really good benefit from that. It's not all doom and gloom out there.
No, I think you're right. There's a shift going on, and depending on which industry or your positioning in that industry depends on whether it's a good or a bad thing. Through lockdown, it was food and beverage and supermarkets that did very well. I think a company like yours is well positioned once those shovel-ready projects actually they start turning the sod, because they're going to need man and woman in vans and utes going out and actually making New Zealand's future.
Make New Zealand great again. Think big.
Well, there's I wouldn't want to import an American phrase and make it our own. I think we can create our own one here, and it would be probably something around make New Zealand paradise, because we've got all these natural assets, but there are some things we're lacking, and infrastructure is certainly something that's been identified by Business NZ and picked up by the government that we can do a lot better in 2020 at providing some a decent level of services. And I would start with water services, or the three waters, and councils will have a big role to play there, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly. And going back to what I was saying before, is any spend in infrastructure has such a huge flow-on effect throughout the economy. There's we see money pouring in there. We've seen it in the past with roads of national significance. Once it gets underway, there's a whole different, there's a bit of a paradigm shift, I guess. Suddenly things start moving faster. We see projects finishing ahead of schedule. We had the Cambridge bypass a few years back. Early on that was getting further and further behind schedule, and then suddenly come the end and was slightly ahead of schedule there. It was fantastic. We've got a 110k motorway out there now. I
haven't driven it yet, but I'll have to head past on my next way up to Auckland. Hey, I've been meaning to ask you, so you're one of a few companies that's gone beyond just putting New Zealand Made on your website, and actually put it on your vehicle. What are some of the comments that you get when people see that New Zealand Made Kiwi on a Camco ute?
Yeah, I guess Kiwis aren't, we're a proud bunch, but we don't tend to beat our chest too much. I think while we haven't had so many Donald Trump style reactions or anything like that, I think there is a sense of pride that people feel when they see that vehicle. They might not be anything to do with our company, or they might be a prospective customer, or they might be a customer, and there's sort of that sense of pride when they grab the handle and open and go, "Oh, one of us made this." I think it's more a sense that you get rather than an outright comment. What's your experience been?
I think it's a bit of both. I got a huge sense of pride when I was driving around Auckland, we were filming for the Making It New Zealand series, and I saw a massive, concrete truck, and there it had, it was Golden Bay cement, and it had New Zealand made on the back, and 2-lane highway, went and passed because he's doing 80k at a full load. And as we passed, there's another one on the left-hand side, and it's on the actual concrete machine, and then on the front passenger door. And I thought, wow, this massive truck's got 6 of these things, assuming that it's mirrored on the other side. And that's just a walking billboard for actually, if you want to make New Zealand better, you've got to start with some foundations, literally, and concrete is part of that. That's probably the most obvious. Rainbow Confectionery, they put it on their building. There are some more subtle ones that just prefer to have it on their website. Or we've even got businesses who I won't name, who are license holders and don't put it on their products at all. They just want to contribute to knowing that New Zealand manufacturing is an important thing to preserve and grow.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just what you described about Golden Bay Cement, I had the same experience. That's what gave us the idea to put it on the side of our ute, actually.
Oh, is that right?
Suddenly, I was like, these guys actually make it in New Zealand, really? That's cool.
And that's what it's about. It's that chain reaction. And the more of us who think this way and then act this way, the more that money goes around locally and the better off we all are.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Carl, is there anything I haven't asked you, or any areas that you want to cover off of Camco that, if we finished up now, you'd think, oh, damn, I meant to ask Ryan, or I meant to cover this off?
No, look, I don't. I think we've covered a few bases. I think, we've had discussions around our team, just how much you're doing at the moment, how maybe we've got some confirmation bias, but, I think from the cross-section of the team that have noticed it, you're definitely doing a great job out there. And on behalf of all YNZ made contributors, we thank you for it. It's a fantastic job you're doing. I think we can, as a country, we can be pretty proud of ourselves.
Oh, thanks, Carl. I really appreciate it, and extend my thanks to the rest of your team. I think at times like these, it's really important to know who's in your group, and the New Zealand made group of 1,200 plus manufacturers has got hundreds more larger in the last 8 weeks. There is definitely a shift towards looking after our own, looking after jobs, and buying the things we make here, which I think it's a great thing for the next generation, which you're part of, which you represent, because you're learning skills now and you'll pass them on in 20 years and on the story goes.
Thanks, Ron. It's good. It's also so encouraging to see the COVID rate, the COVID cases just come down and down and down and down. It's just that our whole team here is just fired up when it comes to 1 o'clock. What are we going to have today? Is it going to be 0? Oh, it's 1. Oh, no. Should be right. We'll be back to 0 tomorrow, What are we up to? Is there 30 cases left or somewhere around that number?
It's peanuts in comparison to some of the countries that thought that they could manage it. And I think the hardest thing with leadership is making a call when you don't know. And it's easy looking back to go, this was the right call. But any sane person, if they were asked, your job is to turn off the entire economy because something significant might happen. That's a pretty tough call, and a lot of countries haven't taken that call because it seemed too extreme at the time. And I think what we're seeing now is that it may have seemed extreme, but gosh, I'm glad New Zealand made it, and I'm very glad that we are surrounded by water, and we're 2 islands at the bottom of the southern hemisphere, not in the center of Europe or North America.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of worse places to be at the moment, isn't there?
There is, and let's just hope that border opens up with Australia soon, so we can get some of our Australian cousins over here to spend up large on domestic tourism.
Yeah, and you've got to feel for those guys in tourism. It's not a nice boat to be paddling at the moment, that one.
No, although the previous interviewee, or a couple of episodes ago actually, on episode, I think it's 22, Ollie Law from Bushman Tours, he's really excited. He said, although we've lost all of our international tourists, like everything, he said that this company was founded on helping Kiwis find parts of their backyard that they know exist, but they don't know how to get to. And so they've got packages of adventures that are guided to places around New Zealand that you're like, oh yeah, gold panning. Well, where would you go to that? Oh, it's somewhere in Otago, right? Or you'd probably start off somewhere around Queenstown. It's definitely, yeah, it's west. It's somewhere down south. But which river would you go to? Like which bend of the river? And how deep? And what's the exact spot that you're guaranteed to bring home gold flakes? So he knows that. And on the interview, we discuss some of those types of experiences that, you know, we all know are there, but we don't know how to get to. You'd need a guide to go through it.
And isn't that just such an example of the typical tough Kiwi? I'm going to work out a way to get through this.
And I think it's in our DNA. You know, we've had 5 or 6 generations in New Zealand where that's the only way. You know, the number 8 wire mentality, although I'm not a massive fan of it, is about scarcity. When you don't have enough, what can you do with the scarce resources? And I think for organizations like Camco, you're almost at the opposite end of the spectrum now. It's like we've got access to all this high technology. We've got access to, you know, digitization. We know how to procedurize things to be really smart and really efficient. All right, what are we going to build? And I think that's what more manufacturers need to adopt, is that Camco methodology around how do we get super lean, super productive, and yet do it in a very super safe way so that we can make New Zealand better. That's the end of my political speech. I'm supposed to be interviewing you.
No, that's exactly it, Ryan. We see articles all over the place about New Zealand's productivity issue, and it is very real. But I think we might have had that shake-up in the last 8 weeks, that kind of step change has dawned for a few of us.
I think so.
For a lot of us. And
I think that the productivity issue isn't one big fix. It's not, you know, the iPhone of VR that's going to save us. It's not the robots are coming. It's the 15 minutes a day. It's the 62 hours a year for one employee times 5. It's these tiny, small increments. And there's an example with a British Olympic cycling team where they looked at their performance and it was disastrous. And so for the next 4 years, instead of trying to push themselves beyond, they looked at all of the micro moments, tiny different shifts they could make. Anything that was 0.1% to 1% better, they would shift and they would focus on. And over that 4 years, they focused on all these little micro things which are meaningless, like routine schedules, when they drink water, how much they would drink, when they got on the bike, what the routine was getting on and off the bike. A lot of this stuff had nothing to do with the race, but actually everything to do with mental resilience. And through that period of 4 years, they won and they continued winning. And I think that's the opportunity, and where Camco fits in is, you've got all of these tiny increments of time-saving things on the back of your ute. But when you add all of those up and then you multiply it by an entire company, you're talking some real competitive savings.
Yeah, and the sport analogy is always a good one. There's an analogy I heard of a tennis player a while back, and I can't remember the full detail, but it might have been Djokovic said early in his career, if he could just win so many % more of his points, not so many more matches, just this many more points, that would mean he would win this many more matches. And, he broke it down and had 3 different break points, I guess, of the number of extra points he needed to win. And now, here we are, I think this was in the mid-2000s, here we are, 2020, and he's one of the most successful, richest tennis players in the world. And then we see the same thing with the All Blacks. Cleaning up the changing room once they're finished. It's the small things that matter.
It's the details. And I think if I was getting a house built and they turned up in a Camco ute like that, I think, right, my house construction is in good hands. These tradespeople care about the details. So I wish you all the best in the rest of 2020, and pass my regards on both to your team and to your dad. I think you've done a fantastic job at representing your organisation, and I hope we can get this interview out to the people that need to listen and watch it to see what you're doing in improving New Zealand's on-road capability. So thank you very much for your time today, Carl. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, right? No, thanks very much for the opportunity, and yep, I'll pass on all your regards to the team. I'm sure they'll be glad to hear it.
You're welcome. This has been a Kiwi original brought to you by the New Zealand Made team. Thanks for watching. The New Zealand Made trademark is used by over 1,200 businesses in New Zealand. The New Zealand Made team licenses that trademark. Check if you're eligible at bynz.org.nz. If you feel that someone should see this, share it with them now. Otherwise, subscribe to youtube.com/bynzmade, and we'll see you on the next episode.